most nations have experienced hardship in recent years. In particular for Turkey, President Erdogan's reputation, popularity, and support all have suffered at the worst possible time as a result of the country's ongoing financial crisis, recession, pandemic, and general political unrest in the nation. We will thus examine what has occurred, what is giving Erdogan headaches, and what might occur in this video. Sedat Peker, a convicted Turkish mafia lord who now lives in exile in Dubai, is partially to blame for the most current political crisis. Peker started uploading a series of films on YouTube in early May after being the target of a police operation, in which he made some very serious accusations about the Turkish government and senior authorities. Peker claims that senior members of Erdogan's Justice and Development Party have engaged in crimes like murder and trafficking in illegal substances and weapons as well as corruption. Despite the fact that these accusations are still only that allegations. After having been watched more than 75 million times, they have already produced problems. According to Bloomberg, this has to come light at the worst possible time and increased worries about Turkish state corruption. The US Department of Justice detained a Turkish businessman in Austria in June on charges of one count of conspiracy to commit money laundering totaling $133 million, 10 counts of wire fraud, and 1 count of obstructing official proceedings. In any case, these allegations are serious. This businessman was the subject of some of Peker's tapes, and Peker claimed that the interior minister had given him a tip that allowed him to depart Turkey and avoid capture and being subjected to an investigation. All of his lends validity to Peker's assertions by indicating that the United States is working on a story that is similar to his. All of this occurs at a time when the failure of the government's economic plans means that corruption cannot simply be dismissed as a necessarily evil in order to support Turkey's economic miracle. It is worthwhile to briefly review Econ 101 before getting into the specifics. Fiscal policy and monetary policy are essentially the two main tools that a government can use to direct and affect an economy. The fundamental issue in this case is not fiscal, which deals with spending and taxation. However, monetary policy is concerned with the movement of money. This monetary policy umbrella includes things like interest rates and currency rates. A nation can affect things like spending, saving, lending, and investment by altering the interest rate of central bank up or down. The whole economy and exchange rates are subsequently affected considerably more broadly as a result of all of these factors. Some governments actually don't have a lot of influence on monetary policy. For instance, in the UK, the Bank of England was granted operational independence in 1988, enabling it to independently control monetary policy, and all member states of Eurozone handed their national banks' monetary policy control to the European central banks as a part of adopting the euro. It makes monetary policy independent of political whim. According to the theory behind granting operational independence to central banks, specifically to prevent a government from manipulating events like economic booms by decreasing interest rates prior to a vote, with less incentives to save as a result of doing this. Loans becomes extremely inexpensive, which encourages individuals to start spending more, which leads to economic growth. As a result, the incumbents could portray this economic development as a political coup. Low interest rates have the potential to spark speculative booms and the dreaded hyperinflation, which are the longer-term effects of such a shift that raise concerns. For incumbents, this, however, is essentially irrelevant. Let's imagine that by decreasing interest rates, the X party sparked a boom in the economy. If X wins the election, they can use the first year of their second term to clean up the mess they have created before trying it again in the run up to the following election. But if X loses, well, that's just fine. It's no longer their problem to correct, and they now have a stick with which to bash their political rivals by claiming that the economy was booming when we left power. You damaged it by assigning the task of bringing the economy back under control to the Y party. A maneuver that is frequently very unpleasant. In any case, the Turkish central bank is not operationally autonomous and has thus been the target of similar political maneuvers. Erdogan, for example, replaced Naki Akbal as governor of his central bank in March, making the third time in less than 2 years that this position had changed hands. Akbal had started raising interest rates before he was removed, which helped to alleviate some of the Turkish lira's economic problems. According to this economic theory, boosting interest rates will cut inflation by slowing consumer spending and start to draw in foreign investment, which will strengthen the currency. In terms of economics, hiking interest rates made sense because the lira had already fallen to almost a record low before Akbal's appointment. Considering that the Turkish lira briefly held the title of best performing emerging currency in 2021. However, no one is particularly pleased to see the cost of lending and, more importantly, investment rise. Erdogan was particularly incensed by the development and promptly fired Akbal, which caused the currency to lose much of its gains. This is all a part of Erdogan's ergonomics brand of economics, stressed senior market analyst Jeffrey Halley of Adana. He asserts that higher interest rates lead to higher inflation, which is the fundamental tenet of ergonomics, a hypothesis that challenges every accepted kind of economic thought. Erdogan himself highlighted this economic situation, saying that removing the weight of interest rates from investment and costs will lead to a calmer environment because it is the interest rate that desires up cost inflation. However, this is in stark contrast to both reality and accepted economic theory. The lira fell even further to its lowest level in over 2 decades as a result of the inflation that reached 17.5% in June, the highest rate in over 2 years, although the discussion up to this point has been largely theoretical. The World Bank estimates that the pandemic and economic mismanagement have caused more than 1.6 million Turks to fall into poverty just last year. Since 2011, Turkey has experienced sharp increases in the Gini coefficient, a statistic that depicts how wealth is distributed in society. As things stand right now, the progress made during Erdogan's first terms in office has been completely undone. Capital Economics estimates that close to $90 billion worth of bonds and debits are due by Turkish banks in the upcoming year. While they have previously been able to refinance and roll over these debits, the ongoing political monetary policy maneuvering may result in a demand for repayment, posing the risk of yet another financial crisis given that foreign investment has almost completely dried up in the nation and that Erdogan is suffering greatly from the political crisis. The financial crisis is made worse. A recent poll indicates that only 26% of people favors his AK party. Although elections are scheduled for 2023, the economists estimates that 58% of Turks want them to take place much sooner. At this level, if a presidential election were held today, Erdogan would lose to any of his three main rivals. Erdogan has reacted in response to each of these issues. With the exception of the presidency, state institutes have been told to cut back on spending and halt property and construction projects. Just a few days later, numerous newspapers published images of Erdogan's $74 million presidential homes. Do you believe that common economic wisdom is incorrect? Though, will the economic crisis in Turkey and the country political events result in early elections? Give us your thoughts on this in the comment section, and if you appreciate our content, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. Share this video with your family and friends. We will meet you soon in a new video. Thank you. Jai Hind.